to The Air Effect. If you are new here, my name is Kristina, and I run this channel because I like old books, I write novels, I like vintage clothes, and I want to live a practical vintage lifestyle. So today, I am sharing with you how I made a autumnal straw witch hat. I saw Perhaps a Wildflower on TikTok make this, and I loved it, and I wanted to make my own, and then I figured, why not film it and put up a little bonus Halloween video, because you know, it's a witch hat, and what more appropriate time is there than to share a witch hat than on Halloween? So I'm going to share with you how I made it. Hopefully you like this video, and hopefully you are having a fun Halloween. Let's just get right into it.
Alright, so for this project you will need 2 straw hats, and then you will just need a variety of leaves, flowers, foliage, little pumpkins if you want them, some wide ribbon with wire in the end, hot glue, a glue gun, and scissors. The first task of making this cute little hat is to unspool one of the hats entirely. This was actually surprisingly easy. It came apart a lot easier than I expected it to, because you just pull out the string that is holding it together, and I saved mine for future projects where I might need some sort of invisible string. And then once you have your unhinged straw hat, you're going to make a cone out of some crafting foam. And all of these supplies I found at Michael's and the thrift store, super easy to find. And you're going to hot glue your cone onto the top of your hat. Now, I didn't do this the way that you should, probably because I'm too lazy to look up instructions on how to make a proper cone, but I just kind of measured it around my hat and then cut off the edges that I didn't need, and it worked just fine. The one thing I did have to try to be careful of was to make sure that I glued it on straight so that I didn't have a really crooked hat. I mean, it's still slightly crooked in places, but when you're winding the straw around it, that will help straighten it out a little bit. So just try to put it on as straight as you can. And then it is time to get winding. You are going to start at the bottom and wind your way upwards and try to overlap the straw a little bit. I honestly did a really sloppy job at this because that's just how I am. Chaos Hobbit, as I have mentioned before. I do things as quickly as I can rather than as efficiently as I can sometimes. But it worked pretty well. I will say, don't use the top of the unspooled hat as your first strand, because once you get to the tightly wound bits, it becomes a little bit more resistant to being spooled the way that you want it to spool. But overall, again, it worked fine. I wasn't aiming for perfection. I was just aiming for a cute autumnal witch hat, and I ended up clipping off the last bits of the hat that was unspooled, and then just using a looser straw thing to do the top. Once I got to the top, I had not really thought about how I was going to close it off, and I ended up spooling it all the way around the top as tightly as I could, and then I kind of bent one end over, and because I put too much glue in it, I had to hold it for quite a while to make sure it would stay. And then the decorating time was upon us, and I just grabbed literally every orange toned thing that I had. I had these little pumpkins from my last project. I had a bunch of little tiny pine cones and pumpkins that are actually air fresheners, but they're really cute, so I figured they would work. And then a leaf garland from the dollar store that I just took all of the leaves off of in order to put them exactly where I wanted them on the hat. This part is entirely up to you. I really like things to look a little bit wild, so I tried to make sure that my leaves were sticking out every which way, and I really love the way that it turned out. I think it was the perfect mix of curated but still naturey, wild, not too perfect. I also grabbed some fake ferns that I had to add a little bit more of that foresty feel to it and to add a little more dimension. Highly recommend looking for foliage that are different heights, cutting them shorter if you need to, or gluing them up a little bit higher, and just make it wild. It's so much more fun when it's wild. So for the ribbon, I literally just kind of unspooled it as I went and I bunched it up, and this is where the wiring comes in handy because I was able to perfectly position it where I wanted, glue an end, and then kind of form the ribbon in the exact shape that I wanted it to be in. And in a few places I tucked it behind some of the leaves to make sure it didn't just look like it was smashing down all of my foliage. I am so glad that I added this part. I almost didn't because I was afraid that it would be too much with all of the foliage and the gingham pumpkins and then all of the other things that I had, but it just adds that nice little textury detail. And then it was gluing in flowers. I had several different kinds of flowers and pumpkins and pine cones, and I just went to town. I kind of filled in all the little spaces. I sort of stuck with putting 3 things together at a time because that's visually very appealing, but I really just didn't want any part of the hat to look like it was too empty. And I also used the pumpkins and pine cones to cover up some of the parts that I didn't like, cover up the plastic on the leaves, things like that, just to kind of cover what I needed to, but also make it feel like it wasn't too bare. I wanted this hat to feel a little bit wild, a little bit like she had just come from an autumn forest, and I'm really happy with it. And it's alright. Then I filled in a spot in the point of the witch's hat where the straw had not adhered properly, so there was a gap. I didn't want it to be visible, so I stuck some teeny tiny flowers in it and I put a little pumpkin on there, and then I thought, why not add these teeny tiny pumpkins all over the point of the witch's hat. I'm really glad I did this. I was going to leave it completely bare, but it ended up adding that perfect thing that it needed to make it feel complete, and that was it. And that was all that I did, just a lot of gluing things into the spots where I thought they looked good. So let's see how this pumpkin cottagecore witch straw hat turned out.
Enjoyed this video. I hope that you are all having a wonderful and safe Halloween. Tag me down below if you try making this. It's super easy. It was way easier than I expected it to be, and it's really fun, and the result is so cute, and I will definitely be using it for a lot of spooky photo shoots. So yeah, I hope that you enjoyed this. Don't forget, if you would like to support my channel in more ways than just liking and subscribing and commenting, you can always go down and check out my Ko-Fi link. I appreciate all support, no matter what it is, and you guys are just the best community that I could ever wish for. So thank you so much for liking and subscribing and commenting and sending support on Ko-Fi and everything that you do. I hope that wherever you are feeling safe and loved. And until I see you again, have a beautiful day, and thank you for watching. Bye!